All right, AJ Smith, you on?
Yeah, I'll do the intro here, guys. Moving on. That was a great, man. This has been a jam-packed day. We've had Noel. We just had Coach Browse, who dropped a lot of good information on us there, and that was a great session. Hope you asked 100 questions there because that was definitely information you could use. And so now, moving on here to our next session, uh, coach who's taught me the most and probably anybody in football and has given me the most opportunity and is one of the coaches that's really evolved this game as you see it in the NFL. And then again in the college game too, as well, with what he did at Hawaii. And he really needs no introduction, but he's here to again uh, as this originator series break down how his offense came to the way it did and became the run and shoot and evolved from that. And it's Coach June Jones.
All right, guys. Good to talk football. I've been out and about the last 6 or 8 weeks and haven't really done anything football-wise, so it's always good to get back to talking about a ball. Anyway, I listened to a little bit of Art earlier, and I wish I had been able to plug in with Noel as well, as all those guys have had such an influence on our game. And the biggest influencer is a guy named Mouse Davis, who I learned from. And I think he was the originator of really the formation wise, spreading the field and playing the game differently. And I think as a young coach, and I think as a head coach or coordinator, you got to be able to identify who you are. It's like everywhere I've been, my first meeting, I'm going to tell the team that we are going to be the number one offense in the league, and we're going to throw the football as for a living, and that's how we're going to survive. Now, I say that all the time, but then yet every place I have ever been, knowing I will have 1,000 yard rusher and we will dominate in the run game as well. But we're going to live and die by the pass. And I'll just share with you a thing that has stuck with me. I was playing for Mouse in 1976, and we were playing uh, in California. We were playing Santa Clara, and we were back and forth. The game was they score, we score, they score, we score. We got the ball for the final drive. We get down to about the just past midfield, and it's 4th and 1. And Mouse calls a running play, and we get blown up. And I'll never forget walking off the field and Mouse looking at me and say, "That'll be the last damn time I ever run the ball on 4th and 1." And and I can that lived with me because I can't tell you how many touchdown passes I've thrown on 4th and 1 inch or 4th and 3 inches, but you got to be willing to do that. We are set up to throw the football, and we know what those people are going to be in those situations. I kind of liked what Art was talking about, studying and knowing, and he mentioned uh, uh, a guy, as a defensive coordinator, he knew he ran this defense 10 years ago at this point, and he's going to do the same. Well, guess what? That's true. I can't tell you, in the National Football League, I had files, and I still got files up here. I wish I could show them that of defensive coordinators, not teams, but the defensive coordinators' names are on the top. And guess what? They don't change. I can remember we're playing Cleveland and Detroit on Thanksgiving Day, and the head coach. My brain doesn't remember names anymore, but I'll think about it as I'm talking. The head coach was a defensive coordinator that had been hired as the head coach, and I knew what he did when he was in Cleveland, 10 years ago, and as the DC, and now he's the head coach 10 years later, and we're playing him in the Thursday game. And so I looked at it, I recall, and here's what he did. Guess what? He ran exactly what he did 10 years ago, and we scored a touchdown on the fourth down play. So those things, as a young coach, you got to go. As I game plan and I listen to other people talk about game planning, I always am watching the film and studying what they do in situational things. For example, 1st and 10 or more, second and 7+, second and 3 to 6, second and 1 to 3. I break them all down that way: third and 1 to 2, third and 3 to 6, third and 7+. And I study the film. I categorize all their personalities that way, and I keep them. Like if I'm playing the Cleveland Browns, which was the Cleveland Browns at that time, now Baltimore, I would have the files of all those games for years of that defensive coordinator, what they did, and those first down plays, second down calls, and they don't change. I have to admit, if you study the game and you study more the people calling the game, where they've been before, and now they're here doing it at this high school or that college, they don't change their personalities. Just like me, I'm sure everybody knows when we were backed up on our 1 yard line, we're throwing for touchdowns. We're throwing deep balls. And I can't tell you how many touchdowns we threw 95 yards or more because of the mentality. I remember one time Nick Rolovich, who ended up being the head coach at Hawaii after I went to SMU, we were playing the Fresno State at Aloha Stadium. And so Pat Hill, I had played a bunch of times, and he kind of knew that what we did. And so we had 99, we got first down and 99 to go. And I called a pass, and Nick threw a wobbler, and it fortunately got knocked down, but he got smacked as he threw it. We threw another one the same way. He got smacked again. I mean, he got blindsided. We busted a protection, and he got hit as he threw. Well, my philosophy always was, and I told Nick, here's the deal, man. I would rather throw the ball off of our goal line than punt it from right there. So I said, we're throwing it again. And we threw it on the third and whatever, 9, 10 to go still. And he threw a touchdown pass on that play. And, if you don't, I always said either we're going to get pass interference or completion. Defensive guys always say, well, when you throw the ball, 3 things can happen. 2 of them are bad. Well, I always say when you throw the ball, 2 things can happen. 3 of them are good. It's either complete or incomplete. And so that's the philosophy, and that's the belief you have to have. And we had it. And I think the way that we did things, and the way I've always did it, even last year with the Seattle Dragons, I had the same philosophy, and we ended up the #1 offense in the XFL before the merger with the USFL. And those same things, those same people, everything was the same. In fact, a lot of the coaches, some of the DCs I had coached against when I was at Hawaii and SMU, and they were doing the same thing. And so we evolved, and we were willing to do things in those down and distance situations that other people weren't willing to do. If it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, we were throwing for touchdown passes, not first downs. And because we knew they were going to either be in bump run man or dogging us or blitzing us, and we were going to have an opportunity to make one tackle, miss one tackle, and we would take it for 6. And I think the thing is, I was listening to Art also. He was more matching up with different people. I didn't care who was playing that corner. I had 4 guys that could run 4-4, and I was going to teach them how to play the game. And we were going to do what was best on the routes off the decisions that we made as we ran up the field, which I'll share with you in just a minute. But that was the philosophy that we had. And I think about this all the time. We went undefeated at Hawaii in 2007. We were 12-0. But 06, I think, was our best team. And we ended up that year 12-3. And in those 3 losses, we had the ball in our hand to score a touchdown to win the game in all 3 of those losses. So that would have made it, a 15-0 that year if we had scored, and we would have gone 27-0. And what's really amazing is that we didn't go for it on 4th down. We didn't do it anymore. I called the game just like I called it when I was in the NFL. If we were to punt, we punted. And I think we set 54 school records in 2007. 54 school records. and national records, which is more incredible. They were national records, not just school records. That some of them were broken clear back into the 30s and 40s. In fact, the one that's the most amazing to me, in 07, we only punted 14 times. Now, we punted 14 times. That was the fewest punts ever in a season. It's still nobody's going to break that record. And we didn't even go for it on fourth down. I mean, I wasn't all. If it was called the punt, we punted. If we had third down, and we got a first down. We didn't go for it very, very many times on fourth down unless it was a goal line situation, or we knew they were going to be in blitz at midfield or something, or past midfield. We would maybe do it and take a chance on it, but not very often. And that record kind of is amazing to me. The thing that is the most important thing as you guys get to designing your game, if you're going to spread the field, and the game has changed, I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years, a lot of the RPO stuff is very, very interesting. And we added some of it. We had a lot of success with it. But I use kind of our routes with the RPO stuff. Now, Art turned the RPO into a complete offense. And what we did was we just pass blocked. We didn't play pass. We didn't throw a bunch of nakeds. We didn't do a lot of that kind of stuff. We called a play in the huddle, which I'll show you a couple of the thoughts about it here in a second. But we called it, we ran it, and we were going to out execute the team that we played, and that was our design. What I think I'll do right now is kind of put up the field itself onto your screen so you can see it, and then I'll show you how we divided it and how we kind of aim for the seams and different things and stuff we do. So if you have that field part of it up there, AJ, you can slide it on there. This one right here, yeah. Now this has the pro markings on it, but I wanted to the field is designed to be basically divided into thirds, and 33 yards from the sideline to what is now the high school hash, I think. And the pro hashes are inside, which you see, but the orange ones are the high school hashes, and that's what we use as our aiming points. Okay, so if we have anything that we have read routes on, the slots or the wideouts that are their read routes are going to get into those orange spots and then make their decisions, whether it be one high, two high, or whatever happens after the fact. But we got to get on those spots if we're got the coverage that we want, which is a one high defense. We want to divide the field perfectly that way. I think that by and large, my philosophy was to get the ball to our wideouts as quick as we could. We didn't throw a ton of quick screens to the wideouts and that kind of stuff. We did a little more later now, and it's a little bit more popular. But those, I remember when we first put in those quick screens in the National Football League, I had two coaches in the NFL tell me that'll never work. That'll never work in this league. And now, as you can see, everybody is running them. That was pretty much said with everything that we put in with the Houston Oilers back in 1987. I think we were the first team that spread the field and went to 4 wide receivers. Jerry Glanville was the head coach, and he hired me and come in to run what we ran at the Houston Gamblers at that time, which was then the original USFL. And so from that standpoint, this is kind of where we always started. And we these aiming points and these spots were by design to get into the creases of the defense. And I wanted to get the ball in the running back's hands 25 to 30 times, whether he catch the ball or run the ball. and then all the quick screens that we ran, which maybe at that time we might run 5 to 6 to 8 of them in a game. Those would be considered runs to me. So when I had my want tos, I always tried to get at least the ball, like I said, 20, 25 or 23 times, 2018 to 23 times to the fullback. But I wanted some kind of quick screens to give us what would amount to 30 rushes. And we were able to do that pretty much all the time. And that was my philosophy on that. I want to go and give you just a quick brief on how we originated our concepts, and that was with a route that we called 90 Streak. And 90 Streak is basically designed for verticals, okay? And the 4 verticals, as you can see, were designed. This is 90 Streak that is drawn up right here, which 90 was to the right for us, 91 to the left. And the quarterback would throw the ball in the B gap on the plus side. So like on 90, he'd be in the, maybe take his 5-step roll to the right. If we're in the shotgun, it was a 3-step drop to the right, just a hair. And he was reading the safeties. And you can kind of see the options that the receivers had. On the far right is what is called an up route. We just had an up route, and that was put it on top. If that was put it on top, and then if the defensive back you couldn't get on top and his ass went to the sideline, it was in 3 deep or 4 deep, he would set it down. And sometimes that set down would be anywhere from 16 to 18, 20 yards. The front side Y would put it right on that hash that I drew up, the orange one. And his only option was if it went 4 across man, you see the red there, he would break it out on his 3rd, 4th step right there, usually about 6 to 8 yards. The backside slot, the H, would have all the reads, and these reads would come off what the coverage did. So the dotted line going straight down the seam would be one where the free safety was in the middle of the field, but he with the roll of the quarterback and the eyes of the quarterback, he came off at the middle and came to the front side seam. Then that guy would go straight down the field on the backside. If it was cover 2, you see the post angle, he would hit that post angle. If it was zone and everything was high on top, you see one of the two hookup levels there. And then the speed cut by is the dotted line going across. That would be man-to-man after he got on top of the linebackers and beat his DB. He would break it. The backside guy had what we called as an outside streak read. And it was either up on top, beat your guy. We tried to not encourage him to beat him on the backside, but to get at the 15 to 17-yard area and then speed cut it across. And that would be with the DB's ass to the inside. If he played off man and his ass was to the sideline, then he'd set it down. And that's why you see that little set down mark there. But basically, the quarterback read the safeties on this. If it was one high, he read the free safety. So if ball was on the left hash, like it looks like on this drawing, and the free safety lined up on the ball, and on the snap of the ball, he backed straight up, then quarterback took his eyes to the left and held the safety there and then stuck it in the front side seam to the Y. And if the Y, sometimes the Y would be running down the seam and the corner would come off because he's so wide open. If that happened, anytime there was coverage coming from the outside where he was throwing, he would take the ball out to the Z, which the Z would have been sat down by that time. And so we read it that way. If the safety came out on the hash, came off the hash to the front side Y as he moved one high, either man free or free 3 deep, then he'd set his eyes to the Y and stick it down the backside seam to the receiver going right down the hash. And if coverage was coming from the outside on that one, then he'd take it back outside to the X. So we read it that way. And the key was that everybody had to see the free safety if it was one high. If the free safety came down, either front side to cover the Y or backside to cover the H, then that is our hot reads would take. And you see the red line to the H, he would 3-step break it to the inside, and the Y would break it out at 4 steps, speed cut it out right there. So he had two places to go with the ball if it went 4 across man and a blitz situation. And then all the other coverages just fall into what I said. It might be 4 deep, for example. Let's say it goes 4 deep. Well, the Y stays right on the front side safety, and on 4 deep, he wants to clear the safety on the outside half of him, okay? Because backside, if that safety plays inside and high on the H, he's going to break post. So we don't want that other safety coming back into the middle of the field. So the H now, if he goes through the undercoverage and that safety's 8 miles deep, then he'd hook up in one of those holes and find a hole off the Will and the Mike linebacker. And then the X was doing the same thing he normally does. If the ass goes to the sideline, he's going to set it down outside. So that was kind of the basis of what we started all our reads with. And that's one of the first routes we put in. And then on, like, we had also the ability to call true streak. Okay, like if I'm on my 1 yard line and I just want to throw 4 verticals, I call true streak. Now, true streak meant that everybody is going deep, and the only guy that had any break was the front side slot. If it went 4 across man, he'd break it out. But backside, those 2 guys are beating their guy on true. They're beating him on one of the deep routes. So it's going to be either a deep post or an up on top, beat them by the X. So it's just, they're doing their normal reads on the backside. They're not going to break it off. They're not going to hook up. They're not going to do any of that. So true streak was that way. And we could put true on some different things as well. But that was the start of what that was. I think the next route really we called 90 switch. And so we'll kind of show you exactly how that originated. And basically what happens right here now is the X replaces the H. He goes inside and makes all the reads that the H made on streak. So it's the same for the quarterback. Everything's the same for the quarterback. He's setting the safety the same way. If the free safety's out to the middle to the right, he's going to hold his eyes to the Y and Z, and then he's going to come backside 1, 2 to the backside, X to the H. The H has now the X's outside read. He goes outside. If it's deep, he's way off. He sets it down, and that's usually about 7 to 9 yards because he's going with width a little bit more. And if it's man, he's going to either put it up on top or break it across if he can't beat that guy. So it's all the same read for the quarterback. I think the one thing I didn't really hit on the front side was if it goes cover 2. Okay, if it goes cover 2, you still have an option. I don't want the ball going down the front side seam. But let's say the corner rolls, and the safety's playing over the top of the Y. Well, you can look backside then and take the ball to the Z if you want to. Okay, now I really kind of, the last few years, because I always knew we had a big play on the backside, I told the quarterback, listen, I want you coming backside this game or this play. While I was on the headset with him, I said, just come backside on this. Because if it goes cover 2 on switch, you're either going to have a post down the middle or the H running down the sideline, man-to-man with the corner. So we kind of evolved that way. And then 4 deep on the backside, you see the hookup holes. If the safety squatted, we ran by him. If the safety got real deep as we got through the Will linebacker on the 2 on top look, then he would hook up in the hole and find it. And usually that's somewhere 12 to 15 yards right in there. And the X's set down was usually 7 to 9 yards on the switch part of it. But those 2 concepts were really the basis for what Mouse did. And I know that these same things were done by Hal Mummy and Leach and also Art. They all kind of stole these concepts from Mouse, and these reads kind of the same. And I don't know if they read them exactly like we did, but I saw them in their film as they ran them. So these concepts are good. Now somebody asked me, and I heard Art talking about the choice route. Once we got streak and switch in, it was real interesting how this is kind of all. We used to call this X choice, okay, or Z choice if it was trips to the left. The one drawn up here is X choice, okay, but we changed it to the name to Indy. Okay, so Indy meant that, and this is you guys can decide how you want to do this. We used to read it on 7 steps when I was in high school and college. As we got to the pros, we then hand signaled it, okay? And the hand signal could be post, could be out, could be 9 route, could be a hitch, could be a slant. And we allowed the quarterback to signal to the individual receiver at X what he wanted, or the X could hand signal to the quarterback what he saw when he's looking at where the corners lined up. And I've had success doing it both ways. If you got really good receivers, I like to give the receivers the option to go give what they want to run. And once they signal the quarterback knows it's going to be an out or a post. And we changed it from 7 steps to 5 steps. Okay. And that 5-step individual, like we said, right, we're going to throw it from the B gap. We're going to throw it right on time. Basically the backside of the choice, after that, the quarterback just went 1, 2, 3, 4. And the progression was the seam, which is the streak read, okay, and then the Z, who has the outside streak read. So even though 90 streak, the H is doing it over here on the left side out of 2x2. Now he's 3x1. He's doing the same thing, but he's doing it from the right side. And then the Y is running basically a half a mesh, an under route, and he's going to hook it or keep going if it stays man to man. But if it's zone, he's going to find a hole with that hookup, probably between the corner and the will if it goes cover 2, or the will linebacker who has the flat and the mic if it goes 3 deep. And all the backside stuff, like I said, is the same for the quarterback. It's a progression. I want the quarterback to read, what the top end is doing before the ball snap. But by the time the Indy is called, when the ball is snapped and he moves a little bit to the B gap to the side of the Indy, he is reading that receiver. And if he likes the out, he throws the out. If he likes the post, he throws the post. If he likes the hitch, he throws the hitch. Whatever the signal was that he gave the quarterback, that's his first option. Then his second option goes to the H, number 2. Third, the Z, outside streak read. The fourth is the half a mesh guy. And that, allows the quarterback to really let the receivers read the backside of the coverage for him, rather than him reading it as the ball snapped. Because it obviously changes. Sometimes it's too high and they kick down to 3 deep. Well, the H would go through, obviously, and get on his mark. And the man-to-man stuff really is open as we go. And so that's X Indy on what is the choice part of it. And then if I said X Indy and we went choice switch, okay, which we can do. It's the same for the Z now. The Z now comes inside, gets on his hash mark or on the safety spaces if it's too high or 4 deep, and he has the inside streak read. And then the H takes it off the Z's ass and has the set down or the man break or the put it up on top outside. So it's the same thing that they're doing over and over and over. And it allows the receivers and the quarterbacks to get good at something. And that's really why I think, as Mouse used to say, all the time, we don't care what the defense does. We care about what we do. And being able to study the defenses before having given the team an idea of what they were going to see by down and distance, that's how we study and that's how we prepared. And I think that because of that, the players always took ownership in the team and took ownership in what we were doing. And that's why we've had so much success over the years. And it wasn't, one team. Every team that I had coached, had been the worst in the history of the franchise or of the school before we got there. And we turned them all around. The Oilers in 1987, I don't think they've been to the playoffs since I don't know when, 10 or 15 years before. And we went to the playoffs the first year. Same thing in Atlanta. They hadn't been to the playoffs since I was a player in 1978 or 80, I think it was. And first year there, we become the number one offense and go to the playoffs. When I went to Hawaii, Hawaii had lost 18 straight games. The first year, we win 9 and they're top passing team in the country. SMU had lost for 25 years, hadn't been to a bowl game. Our first year there, we were improved immensely, but we didn't go to the bowl game till the second year. And we just kept getting better and better. We went to 4 straight bowls. We won 3 of them, and we got that thing turned around. And then every other team that I've been on in Canada, doesn't matter where it was, Hamilton. In fact, I tried to hire Art, get him to come help me before somebody, media overdid the reaction that he had the situation he had been in. So he ended up not being able to coach, but they were, and I think when I got there, they had lost 9 in a row. And the last game they lost 67-3, I think. And the next week, I took over and I had 1 week to get ready to play Toronto in Labor Day, and I'll be damned if we didn't beat them. And then we went on and went to the playoffs that year, and then the next year, same way, we went to the playoffs and were the top offense in the CFL. So there's rhyme and reason to what we do, like I said, and I talk pass all the time, so the media blows up the pass all the time, but we really win because our fullback is gonna get over 1,000 yards, and we're going to run the ball up your yin yang too. So, and I think that goes unnoticed with what we do, but it's true everywhere we've been. With that, AJ, I think I don't know, Keith, if you got some questions people want to ask me or something, we can go to that and or talk any other concepts that they want to know about, because I know a lot of people know a whole lot of what we were doing and may have questions that way.
Yeah, someone asked, you saw they were asking about the choice route, and you went over that pretty in detail. But he was wondering about this, probably a good one to discuss because it's a lost play, the super screen to the super back or to the F, and probably need to discuss shotgun versus under center if that has any merit to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we ran the screen to the fullback, and that was also a running play for me. And we ran it much better when we were under the center all the time, and the fullback was coming to the edge, and everything looked the same, like draw, screen, pass, all looked the same. In the shotgun, it was a little bit more difficult to get the pass look going as well, but we did it and we had a lot of success with it. But you have to spend way more time on it. Basically, we were going to reach the front side of the protection and bounce the pass rushers, and the fullback had the end man on the line. And if there was no end man on the line, usually the tackle bounced the end up the field, and then the fullback bounced him as well. And it was kind of like a flip underneath hand, flip to the fullback. I wish I had some screens. I don't know if while we're talking, you can pull a couple of those videos, but we ran it very well everywhere that I've been. I would say the last couple of years I didn't run it as much because I think when I thought screen, I was thinking more of the the quick screens to the wide receivers, which, by the way, we blocked pretty much kind of the same, although the ball was out right away. And even though we were blocking the inside the same, we didn't. I tried to set on the fullback screen the front side tackle had the first backer off the ball to the inside. And usually that guy had the fullback man to man. So if we caught man to man on that and the end came up the field, well, blocking that guy that has the fullback, you pin him to the inside. Well, there's nobody for the running back. So I can't tell you how many times we flipped the ball to the running back and there was nobody there. And he went, 60, 70, 40, whatever, until he got tackled. So to answer your question about that, that was a big part of the offense, and it also was a big part of the way to control the pass rush, so that they always were leery that was coming, and they never really teed off as much to the side of the fullback. Hopefully that answered a lot of the questions. Okay, here it is. Ironhead is running it here, and you can watch him, kind of bounce the end off of this, and he'll just turn around and flip it to him, and he's kind of jerking. We had a lot of little subtle things too. If the end squatted, he put it in the flat, and the quarterback ran a little bit more. If the end came up the field, then he was going to set inside. Here comes one off the edge, and he's going to bounce the widest rusher. And then the quarterback's eyes are going down to the corner, so that it looks just like the Indy, the choice part of it. The tackle, if the guy inside charges, he lets him go, and then he looks for anybody peeling for the fullback. And you can see right here, if that end doesn't tackle the back, or that blitzing linebacker doesn't tackle the back, there's nobody for the running back. And that one's pretty wide open. Here's when the end comes up the field again, and you can kind of see the fullback bounce the end, and then the quarterback flip it inside. Like to get, once the fullback catches the ball, try to get it back out going to the right side of this, and then find it. See how everybody's going to the right there, and he caught this and looked like he turned back inside, like him to go outside, turn and go outside toward the numbers, and that's where the yards are. I gave you a little bit of an idea anyway.
Oh, I was muted that whole time. I was sitting there talking with you about it. But no, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. If you have any final thoughts, we can end this session. If you have something, that's send it in quick. But it looks like this is about it.
Well, I think the most, the key really is getting in the mindset as a coach as to who you are. Identify, who you are, and let everybody know that, like I said, I still to this day will see guys that sat in that first meeting in Hawaii when they were 0-18. They were dead last, 118 out of 118 in offense. And when I walked in that day and told him on my first meeting, we're going to be the number one offense in the league next year in the whole NCAA, and we're going to be the number one passing team, I still see those guys, and they can't believe we did that. But the belief in the system is vital, and you have to believe in what you're doing. I know that those players that played for Art Briles, they believed in what they were doing, and they overachieved because of that. And I've watched so many successful offensive coaches. Mike Leach was a good friend of mine. In fact, I talked to him on the phone. He might call me at 4 a.m. No, I'm in Hawaii, and he's somewhere, and might call me at 6 p.m, and he's at 2 a.m. where he is. And we talked football all the time. I remember taking him to Samoa for the first time. He wanted to know how I got so many Polynesian players, and I said, you need to come recruit with me, and I'll show you how the kids in Samoa work and play. And I said, once you get a few of those guys, you won't have to recruit anymore. I said they'll talk to the 60,000 people in Pongo Pongo. I said they'll know more about Mike Leach and what you're doing than anybody else, because that's how tightly knit the Polynesian players are. And he did that and ended up getting some really good Polynesian guys from American Samoa. But I think the key, like I said, is that belief. And and I also heard a question that somebody asked Art about, what if you don't have a quarterback that can't make those throws? Well, I've never not been able to find quarterbacks that can make the throws that I need to do it. And in fact, Tyler Grunke played behind Colt Brennan. Colt Brennan, like I said, was phenomenal in what we did. In fact, I go back and look at these cut-ups sometimes and just shake my head. And I have to see when Tyler Grunke would come in the game, my backup. I said, he's as good as Colt, but he didn't get to play because Colt was so dominant. And everywhere, it didn't matter if I was at SMU, it didn't matter if I was at I loved the Seattle Sea Dragons. Ben DiNucci was cut from the Cowboys, and he played probably his best professional football for me. And our backup was a guy named Harrison Frost, who just happened to show up, and I thought he might be better than Ben. And but so you can find them, and they can learn to do if you don't change it every week. In other words, Harrison Frost repped the same plays that Ben did all of the year for the Seattle Dragons. So if he got in the game, guess what? He's running the same plays that Ben is, and it's not individually just for somebody. He's now in Canada as a backup quarterback in Hamilton, and he never played. He never played really in college other than his freshman year when he played he went to Auburn to begin with, and then went to a Division II school in Alabama, and that's where he played finally. And then I happened to see him on film, and somebody told me that this kid could really throw, and they were right. He could really throw. So you can find them, and they get overlooked. Like if you're in Division I football, you can find a quarterback that is as good as any Division I top quarterback as a passer, but he might be 5'11". He might be 6 foot. You have to be willing to take that guy. And I was always willing to take those guys. Jeremiah Mazzoli, who played at Mississippi, I watched him play, and I was blown away how accurate and good he was. And he had played at Hawaii at St. Louis High School, but I was at SMU at the time, so I didn't really get to know him. So I signed him in Canada, and he played for me, and he broke every CFL record up there known. And he had an unbelievable, he was all pro the year I had him, and took us to the playoffs, second round of the playoffs. He was a phenomenal player, still is. He's up there at Ottawa right now. But you can find quarterbacks. I remember Mouse telling me in high school, he said, June, when you get to high school, just line everybody up. And everybody, linemen, running backs, DBs, have them play catch 10 yards apart. Just get a bunch of footballs and let them play catch. And then whoever you think looks like he has a good arm, I said, you just make him a quarterback. And then guess what? That's what I did. I remember my first high school job was in Georgia. I was playing for the Falcons at the time, and Forsyth County hadn't won a game in 4 years. And the coach, I lived in Forsyth County, I got to know him, and he said, will you come run the offense for me? He said, I've had enough here. I said, yeah, if you'll let me do what I want to do. And he did. And so we Forsyth County hadn't won a game in 4 seasons. And I did what Mouse said. I lined him up and took this guy and hadn't played quarterback and taught him how to play in what we do. And we started off the year 5-0. And then we were going to play in Athens, and I think it was Athens Central or whatever, but they had like 20 players that got D1 scholarships off their team, and they were state champions the year before. They too were undefeated. And so we went to play them in Athens, and I can remember we were moving the ball up and down the field. And you got to appreciate this. They had never seen 4 wideouts, and we ran motion, and nobody moved. They had 6, 7 in the box, and we're running 4 wideouts. We got guys wide open. But by the time we got down to the 15 or 20 yard line, they decided we've had enough of this, and they just blitz us. Of course, we couldn't block anybody. We didn't have a kid that went to Division I the next. But we ended up playing with them. We got beat pretty bad, but we ended up competing and made the playoffs that year. So I know that if the kids believe in it and you get that guy under the center that can throw the ball, you can win. And it's fun, and the kids like it. Ticket sales are up, and it's the way to play the game.
Well, we got one last question, and there's a few that came in. I thought this one would kind of be a good point to talk. But Coach John wanted to know kind of philosophy / favorite goal line concept, being in 4 wides and being down there, and just asked for some goal line thoughts and concepts.
Yeah, I think the number one thing you have to be able to do, even in 4 wides, is you have to make them defend the option. Okay, so on the weak side, away from trips, you have to be able to, if and the quarterback teach the quarterback the looks that you want to run the option, and option the end man on the line of scrimmage on the weak side. You have to have that play for sure. I mean, for sure, you have to have that play. And now with the way the RPO stuff is going, I found in Seattle that the RPO stuff down there, but passing the ball out of the RPO stuff, not running it. Of course, you can run it, and we always did. I might go tackles over, for example, and we would just run a zone play to that side. But you had to be willing to understand that if they want to take the run away in the plus area on the inside the 5 yard line, they can do that. They got enough ways to do it. But the answer to the question usually is they don't have enough to defend the option. And if you can if they can defend the option on the weak side, then there's something that's going to be open on the front side throwing the football if they leave too many on the weak side away from trips. So I think the option is definitely you have to be able to run, and that's a speed option to the weak side.
All right, no, Coach, that'll wrap it up. Thanks so much for everything, and yeah, we'll close this session and head on to house.
All right, I'll look forward to that. And I didn't get to the mesh stuff, but how by the end, the last 5 or 6 years I've been running, that Indy call also had a mesh to it where we go Z Indy, but we call mesh and we call X mesh. And that meant the mesh guy on the front side always was setting the mesh, and then whoever was the call on the weak side was coming and getting the pick from the Y. So that became Z Indy, and then the mesh part of it really changed how teams defended us. And I'm going to look forward to listening to Hal speak.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach.
All right. Have a good one.